Hopefully not. There we go. We are here. A couple minutes late, sorry everybody, but we have a packed agenda of things to go over. So we were doing a little recap together just now, but welcome to everybody in the live stream right now and to those watching after the fact. Leonis Report episode 73. Happy Monday. And JB, hello to you as well, obviously. What's going on, buddy?
It's a very happy Monday with all the festivities happening over in JP. It was very exciting to see, and we'll definitely dive into that. The weekend was good though. Had some nice family time. We did some apple picking, which is a very New England thing to do this time of year. So we got that done. Got some cider donuts, and had a nice time out. It is feeling a little bit more like fall now, getting a
Oh, yeah.
little bit more chilly, and the leaves are a little bit starting to turn here already. So, how about you? How was the weekend?
It was good, pretty low key. Just football day yesterday. My girlfriend got back from a trip on Saturday, so we were just kind of laying low, letting her catch up on some sleep. But she adamantly was like, "Hey, Will, this time of year, I've been away and I got my social energy. Like, let's do some fall activities." So I'm throwing apple picking on there, for sure.
Oh,
So
okay.
get out and
Yeah.
do that too. I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, those are we just do that annually. Make some apple cider in the morning and then head out and good times.
I mean, there's so many like, good places that are within, 20 minutes of where both of us live. So
Yep.
it's always nice this time of year to get out and do that.
Definitely is. Definitely is. But yeah, we have a handful of things to go over today. We will very quickly talk about last night's live stream recap with Justin. I do think that's worth talking about really briefly. We'll see if we have any thoughts on Angela Duran. Now that we've had some time to play with them, just see if anything has changed. We do have new units being released this week with the Crimson Wizard, who we do want to give some attention to, as well as his vision card, kind of give some early thoughts. Sadali also being released in succession, I believe this week. I think they were a simultaneous release, which is
Oh yeah.
crazy. We did get Garrousa, who is a kind of new storyline lore character introduced, and he's over on JP, so a little bit further ahead in the timeline than what we're getting this week. But the big topic of it all is the Final Fantasy Tactics news. We are saving that for the end, and there's honestly probably too much to cover in the Leonis support. Quite frankly, they've done an immense amount, so we'll do our best to still give some thoughts and impressions and call some important things out. And then if we have any time, we will do a little bit of a look back on the fourth anniversary units to see how close we were in terms of our initial impressions, how things would change, just to kind of do a little recap to hold each other accountable. And you'll have to forgive me for just a second here, everybody. I don't think I set up my window to share stuff. Nope, we're good. Okay, there we go. So we're good to go when the time calls for it. But yeah, we'll kick things off now with the live stream recap from last night, which I was humbled and fortunate to be featured on. Justin and friends, first time back in a while. I know I'll just kick things off my initial thoughts. I know that stream is not what people want from a Hiroki stream, that people really want the gifts, they really want uh, cutting edge news, quality life things that really change things up. And that's not that Justin and Friends. The Justin and Friends stream is really like the Leona support. It's basically like you and me just hanging out, talking. And I'm seeing some comments here. I'm sorry, guys, that my uh, sound is very low. I don't know why that is. Hopefully that gets better. Uh, I guess I'll just talk really loud in the meantime. um,
Sounds okay to me, but I see on your sound meter there you're not breaking into the yellow area, so
okay,
maybe that's why.
that could be. Yeah, oh, regardless, we'll see if it ends up being a problem. But yeah, so the Justin and Friends live stream is just talking about some stuff in the game and really just some Q&A and just hanging out. So the bottom line for me though, why I really appreciate that stream, we asked for weeks and months now, like, hey, Gumi, why are we not getting anything from you or Square? And this was an opportunity for Justin and the social media team to actually like take some time, which was one of our biggest questions by saying like, are you guys still here? Is there still any kind of support? Are you guys really listening? And I know we kind of know that because we talked to Justin, but to the average player, they obviously don't. So there are some questions around if we even get a modicum of their attention whatsoever. And so that to me was a really big signaling thing that we could prove that, yeah, they do want to take the time to still do some live streams with us. They did announce they're going to do another one in the future. So that's also promising. And overall, very happy with the fact that it happened at all. So yeah, I don't know if you got to watch it or if heard anything through the grapevine about it.
I did. I got to catch most of it. I was maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes late or so after it started, but caught the majority of it. I was hanging out in the chats, typing in and interacting with folks and with you guys. And Yeah, it was. I was very happy to see it. I agree, it is not what people were necessarily asking for, but like you said, it does show that there are kind of signs of life over there. It does show that, you know, I think that just I've always appreciated, those Justin and Friends streams. Like I got to go on one as well. It's been a long time, but um, kind of, early on when I started my YouTube videos, I was invited on there and had a good time with Justin. He's a good guy, and it was kind of, it's kind of fun because we don't have as much of those kind of streams going on. There's as many content creators as there used to be. And at the end of the day, it's fun just to hang out with the community and talk about the game, and that's what that was all about.
Absolutely. And I do want to give some props to anyone here in chat that also attended last night. We were watching the comments through the stream, and honestly, everyone was really well behaved, really positive, really engaging. I'll be honest, I get nervous about that sometimes on who attends because to me, I always worry about what kind of comments the development team sees. And if they see a bunch of fans that are just like trashing them and unappreciative, I can only imagine what that does for them in terms of incentivization of maybe doing it again or pivoting their strategy. And I think everyone in the comment section, for the most part, last night was like supportive and engaging. So props to everybody there too. I do think that's important for the team to see that like the fans are still happy, even if they're not very happy. And unfortunately, it sounds like I'm still pretty low, everybody. So I think I'm gonna make a quick tweak here. I can't adjust my volume. I'm gonna put JB down a little bit, and so that way, hopefully, you can all turn your volume up a little bit, and everything will normalize. So um, hopefully that'll be okay, but we'll see if that works out here. So everyone, go ahead, turn your volume up a couple notches. We'll see if it happens as I want it. But yeah, anything else on the
Yes,
live
yeah.
stream?
So to your point, I noticed that too. There was general positivity in the chat, and I think, kind of um, the news about Final Fantasy Tactics had been well received. Last night or whenever the stream was, we didn't know the full details of it, but we knew at least some of it that was coming, and then we knew that they were going to be good. So I think that had created at least some positive buzz about the game. Um, to be honest, if that's how they were feeling though, they're skittish about hearing those comments, that's part of it. You have to deal with the good, you have to deal with the bad, and going radio silent, I think, is a real tough look, especially for as long as they did it. But I'm glad to hear that there is going to be another stream coming up, and hopefully Haruki's on there. As of around this time, it would have been Global's 4.5 year anniversary. If we were still, kind of going by our original birth date of the game. So the fact, maybe there could be some goodies there to kind of recognize that's unofficial kind of milestone for us.
I agree, 100%. But yeah, we'll keep this moving along because I know everyone is very much eager to get to the tactics stuff. But we will talk a little bit about Angela and Duran here just to see if we've had any initial thought changes. I know I ended up building them faster than I intended, and so I've used both of them. I don't know if your experience, if you've had any or seen much outside of that, but I know for me, my opinion's still the same. They're solid characters. I can see why some people think they're underwhelming. I can see more than anything why people would pass for the sake of their Visiora economy, that these are not must pull units. But I think anyone saying that they're not great units, I think is still not 100% there. But oh, god damn it, I'm still quiet. I literally can't do anything else, and I've changed no settings. Uh,
Maybe it's on your actual headset. Is there like a volume or something on there that can be controlled?
no, no. Um, I, I guess I'll just keep going. I don't know. Um, I literally have nothing I can do for this except maybe move my microphone
Oh, that
closer.
sounds louder. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds way louder when you did that.
Okay. So we'll go with this. Where do we live off? Oh, Angela and Duran. They are high quality units, though. I do think that they will get their time to shine. It's just that right now we are in a very strict meta, kind of like we were during Starlight Elena and the Helena and Vivi meta, and even like Strike meta at certain times. That if you're not primed to play with that specific core, you're just not going to have your time to shine. You just hope that the meta goes by fast enough that these units will get some play before they get power crept, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so my opinion of Angela hasn't really changed much. She is not ready to carry a team, and she's not really a team carry anyway.
No.
She is a debuffer. She's always been a debuffer, and she's like a bruiser. Um, and she does really well in that. Like, she was the last unit standing in a lot of the fights that I was running her through. She just doesn't have the popping, the ability to pop off in the damage department. She needs somebody who's going to throw out the imperils and the breaks and those things to kind of coincide with what she does, which is as a dispel or debuffer type unit. Um, and that is what Exia is going to bring. And when those two get together, I think it's a lot more compelling. Right now, there's no reason to rush that unit, even with with Cipher or Cipher, whatever you want to call them. It's good, it's fine, but neither of them have the the I don't know, it's good, but it's not as good as like Shrek and Sephiroth right now.
Right.
Um, but maybe it could be depending on the map and kind of how you set up there. Duran, on the other hand, I think seeing him on Ram's squad was better than I expected. I think he really impressed me with his damage, which I really wasn't expecting from him. I was expecting him to be a lot less damage than he was throwing out. So, is he like, like a super compelling unit? I still don't think so, but definitely better than I thought he would be.
I completely agree. Right. It's hard to say it differently than that. They're still quality units, but I don't think they just solve anything that people are looking for. It's unfortunate that this collab doesn't hit with this community, that I think their overall pull rate will be rather low, just on the basis that there's no real affinity toward pulling them. Sometimes these collaborations people will pull just because it is a collab that they love. I don't think that's the case here. So these units are probably going to go the Zoma route of Dragon Quest in terms of like, they weren't a bad unit. They're probably great units. Zoma honestly has done like really surprising things in the months like after, and even as time went on. But it's the kind of thing that in that moment it really wasn't what people wanted or needed, and so as a limited collab, they just kind of get left behind. And I could see that being kind of similar here.
I think so. I think that it's Angela's. Like I said, I still think that she has potential to be like a piece there. Is it going to be, still good when Garrousa comes and some of this other stuff, that is coming in JP? That remains to be seen. So that, could certainly change on a dime. But I totally agree that it doesn't solve the meta problems that we're having right now. It's more like just complementary pieces that can be added into the picture, at least at the moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. But on that note of the Trials of Mana collaboration, we do have the new Crimson Wizard being released this week, and so he is a fire mage. He's a glove unit here, coming out at the first of a couple, Sadali also. And we've talked about him a little bit before. There's really no surprises to this unit, I don't think. I don't think there's anything like very tricky or in depth about him. He really is just kind of like a magic nuker, in my opinion. He does have some similar like potential bulking capability that the other two units have in terms of some above average mitigations. But he's really known for a bunch of 100% hit chances, and I think that's intentional, just so you can gear him in such a way that you really can gear 100% magic modifiers and the Genji glove and go nuts on the mat and not worry about your luck stat or anything like that. And I think that's the intention with this unit. It's kind of vanilla in that regard, but he does have some interesting survivability with some like HP restores on certain abilities. He does have some damage removal things that we've talked about synergize very well with Sadali, but I do have pause with this unit because when we first saw him, Exia was not coming out yet, and Exia looks to absolutely demolish this guy under the right circumstances. So I think that's a little bit of a demerit in terms of his overall strength. I think he's trending down at the moment, and I could see where there becomes a time where he really just doesn't have an importance in anywhere.
Yeah, that combo, like when we first saw it, like when it initially dropped on JP, it looked like it was really, really solid, and it is. Like they're a good combo together. They're designed to work together. Talking about Sodal, the new Earth Sodali,
Yep.
the packages of each unit, coincide and mesh together beautifully. And in terms of this unit, though, as a singular unit, he's really just like a bruiser. Like he's very stout, especially when it comes to AoE damage. He gets a lot of wide resistance between his passive and mastery and his equipment. Um, And he can give protect and shell to the team, which is nice. Kind of depending on who you're going up against in the meta, those can be very strong, especially against like Sephiroth and Shrek. They can't deal with either of those,
Yep.
so that's really nice. He just does a lot of damage though, and that's basically what he does. He sticks around. He's got the absorbing attacks. He does a lot of large AOE damage. So the wide resistance is going to be particularly tough for him to deal with, and that's where Sadali is the perfect partner for him, because Sadali is the one who can remove that for him and allow him to do even more damage. In terms of like utility that he brings, he really is only got I would say like a mid-tier barrier break. It's just a small cross. I think it's like 5 range, so it's not bad. Like it does good damage. It's 100% hits. It's a nice ability. I call it a mid-tier barrier break just because of the size of it.
Yep.
And there's less chance you're going to be able to hit multiple units with it, kind of depending on how they're lined up. So maybe sometimes it could work amazing and other times maybe not so much. Other than that, though, he really has just got the spirit break, and that's about it, in terms of debuffs and things like that.
Yeah, totally agree. It's funny. Someone just brought up, Chris just brought up. So he's Fire Zoma. You know what? He actually might be. There's some similarities there for sure in terms of the bulk and whatnot. But um, I do want to at least give a little bit of credit though. I think myself personally, I've had some bias in the past where I discount some of these units and just say, oh, they're just a high damage unit. And quite frequently that's all you need sometimes. There's a couple units that come out and it's just an amount of damage that you literally can't ignore, and that's the meta, is that they do so much damage you literally can't deal with it. So I say that kind of like it's a negative thing, but at the same time when done correctly, it's still very oppressive, and there's at this point of the game fewer and fewer things to stop it, where now we're getting all kinds of counterplay of removal from a whole bunch of different places that I do still think there's value there. It's really just a question again of longevity, that these units that are known for high damage, they usually fall off a cliff at some point because they have nothing else that really lasts long term.
I agree. I mean, we have a perfect example of that with Shrek in the meta, where her damage is just so strong that she can one shot so many units if she's built properly. So that's, I think, is kind of what we have here with this unit. And if the other team doesn't have wide resistance, or an extreme amount of area resistance, he's going to be able to nuke an entire team and do it very, very quickly. So I think there are some nice things about this unit. And right now, though, Ice is on the downturn, so he doesn't really have that even that sort of meta counter importance. But I think he's certainly usable and viable.
Absolutely right. This is still a unit that if you pull him, I know you'll likely still get value out of, no matter what. It's just a question of for how long. That's always, I think, something that people really look to answer because they want to feel like they can use a unit for a long period of time, and that is still kind of predicting the future. At the end of the day, we can only do so much, but um, regardless, solid unit. I think that should still be the takeaway.
I agree. I like him. I'd like to get him. He does have a very strong guild raid niche. He's got a lot of chaining attacks and the Spirit in Peril, which I think is also a multi-hit. So that is all like really, really nice for the fire element and kind of doing those guild raid runs. In terms of like the meta forecast and kind of to your point there and kind of piggyback off of it, if you look at what we know about kind of upcoming over the next month,
Right.
Sadali comes along with him, who's a very strong anti-magic unit. He has 30% magical damage reduction just innately before you even talk about any other, cards or anything like that. We just learned about Garrousa, who also has some magical reduction in his kit. We have Resnick already here, who is like, just shuts down a lot of magic damage dealers once if she can get into the mid fight with her barriers. And then Exia, of course, who is the water unit who can one tap this unit in a lot of cases, or very, very close to it. So it's a tough meta forecast for him. That's there's no denying it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will try to segue quickly here to Sadali, who we've already touched upon, but I do want to talk about the vision card briefly that Crimson Wizard is coming out with, if my screen will load. There we are. This is a oh, glove-oriented vision card that joins with Katana, Spear, and Staff Devout. It's slash res, magic attack, debuff weakening. Before we get into the details of this, I'm going to make a bold statement here. I think this might be the worst Hollow Vision card we've gotten so far. I think it's up there for overall potentially one of the worst. The Hollow Vision cards as of late have been really strong. That there's been a lot of main slot candidates that all have really impactful like guild war or duel effects potentially, and this one is absolutely a sub slot vision card to me. It's a quest hollow effect, so this to me is for like Trials of Reckoning high score. This is not for any kind of PvP stuff. The bestowed, relatively lackluster in my opinion. There's a couple other cards that you can get something similar. The party effects though, and that's why I was on the glove screen a second ago, the slash resist to me is in this day and age like virtually nothing, quite frankly. Too many units are at 70 to 90 slash res pen that in the sub slot this means practically nothing to me. The debuff weakening certainly is nice, and glove does not have one of those, but the magic attack here is one of those other attributes that if you look at, oops, I did not want to do that. If you look at glove on a whole, on the whole, in terms of like what do they already have for potentially like magic increasing cards, I mean, you have the Zoma card, you have Silver Memories with the magic percent, you have Magic Res Pen if you have the Roy Mustang card, you already have Magic Attack if you have the Kefka card, the Addison Ray is the magic percent, you have Magic Man Killer on the Howlet card here. Like you could go down the line here. Like there's enough vision cards already that in terms of like that magic damage, you can probably still get that pretty easily. It's really just like the debuff weakening that you're potentially missing out on. And no shot do I think like 10 debuff weakening is worth 20,000 to 24,000 vis for a hollow vision card. Like no chance.
I agree. This is one of the worst cards we've seen in a while, and the fact that it's on a limited collab just makes it look even worse. Especially when you compare it directly with the Zoma card, which was one of the first job-based vision cards that we got in the game very, very early on. And I would say the Zoma card is even better than this, to be honest with you. If you look at it, it's
Absolutely.
literally the same two first party effects, and then you get agility instead of debuff weakening. The base stats you can argue and bestowed you can argue is even better with the luck and area resist. So the fact that this card was 10K guaranteed and we could use stars on it, and this new card is an absolute trash hollow VC, it blows. That's all you can say.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad we're
I hate
both.
it. I hate
Yeah,
it.
me too. I do. Yeah. Hate's a good word. It's really bad. I mean, the only potential, no, it's not even copium, is that Staff Devout is on here. Nothing about this outside of that is worth it. I just, yeah, next. We won't waste everyone's time. We said our thoughts. But Sadali, though, on that note, another glove unit that's coming out this weekend, quite frankly, is an exceptionally strong unit. I think there is still a question of like, what teams do you put him in? Because Crimson Wizard did look like a top tier unit, and he still is. But I think the window is going to close a lot faster here now with some of the upcoming units. But Sadali does a lot of really exceptional things, not only from like teammate buffs where you can pass on damage absorption to allies, but he's got a follow-up attack like King Mont on his own limit break, and even that in hindsight is less powerful now with Summer Resnick and the fact that we have her. I don't think she was out yet when Sadali was she? Hold on.
She was.
She was. Okay. Regardless, that does still change the discussion around him because that is a notable source of damage. And yeah, he does complement Crimson Wizard and does do a lot of decent like diamond shaped stuff, but this unit is in a tough spot with Shreka and now Garrousa coming out that um I'm not feeling nearly as good, particularly if Crimson Wizard is trending downward because of Exia, in my opinion. That combo is probably still great, but not worth the viz. It's kind of the ultimate deciding factor.
It's tough because I was looking forward to this unit, and of the upcoming slate until the last couple of units came in JP, I thought he was one of the best looking ones, and I still think he's a very strong unit. I don't think that Earth is in a very tough position at the moment. The where it seems we're going into a fire winds meta. That's how, because we're already there, and they're just adding on top of it now with the latest unit who's looking very strong as well. They all look strong. Um, so there's no lightning presence in the meta for him to counter. We have Ramada, but she's a niche unit, and nobody's putting her up on defense. She's very strong, so like if we do get another lightning unit, it could create some demand for this unit, but it's tough to pull on it, especially in a double unit week, just on that sort of chance that that could happen. So the fact that he is a permanent pool unit, I think a lot of people probably should just wait for the upcoming anniversary and hope we get a select.
I agree with that. And when we looked at this initially, I think you'd made a really compelling argument with this magic damage reduction and the all element res that him versus Shreka actually was a lot closer than we would
Yeah.
normally think, particularly when you throw in the fact that he does have this blind status effect in a couple attacks that really nobody is gearing against. I know that Summer Resnick has it in her aura, so it is kind of accounted for there, but I know this angle of even like blinding people, or Shreka in particular, because Shrek is not that accurate. Maybe that could be an additional layer to the counterplay, but I do think Garrousa changes that rather significantly. Particularly again when you consider everything else you have to pull in the future. But solid unit,
Yeah,
but yeah.
I wasn't worried about the Shrek matchup with him at all because that 30% damage reduction, he also has like a ton of element resistance. So not only can he really mute all of her damage, including the follow up with the reduced damage taken, he's got like a huge barrier as well. But then he's got the a bunch of element resistance in there too. So it passively and then on that buff. So yeah,
Yep.
I think if you would pair him with like a Resnick or like a Dispel Sealer, like an Exia, he was looking very, very strong to me. But
And yeah, and Brad asked in the chat, moderately apathetic. Shreka isn't accurate. Not really. I think it's a little inflated at the moment because Resnick's buff, Summer Resnick gives a 30% accuracy buff on that first buff, and you're often using the Garuda Vision card with Shreka, which has the luck on it. That I think the two of those things are kind of artificially inflating Shreka's over. I'm not saying she's inaccurate, but if you built in like a relatively decent evade unit or gave the blind effect, I think Shreka would normally suffer. But I think right now, because of that team that's being put together, Shreka's punching up for what she normally would be accuracy wise. I don't know if I.
she's pretty accurate. I mean, she has the accuracy passive and she has like the enhanced on hit. And like most of the time she's got Garuda in the party. It would be pretty I think you would have to really, really go all in on accuracy with Sadali to even for the blind to, I think, make it hard for her to hit him.
Okay, I'll follow up
So
on that.
that would be like using fundamental forces. That would be using, the 42% luck Lucio card secondary. You'd have to go all in, I think.
Yeah, and no, she does not have a guaranteed hit. I'll revisit that. My impression was that the accuracy could be there, but wasn't always there. But I know right now it's higher than what the innate character profile gives because of Summer Resnick and the Garuda card, which not everyone might be using Garuda all the time, but obviously that's a strong card.
A lot of people are going like big D damage too with her, so her accuracy doesn't always look as good as if she was, had a Alex ring or something on.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we will keep moving along here, where we will talk about Garrousa, who was just announced, and he is a relatively new lore character. They did kind of name drop him a while ago. That he's one of these characters that's accumulating the swords that everyone is trying to hunt. It looks like he's the kind of character that's started to become corrupted by the influence of the swords. So I think that's kind of the evil angle there. I think it's really intriguing that they made him wind and Shreka's also wind, where that's apparently the new evil elements that they're going with here. But very, very strong character for a variety of reasons. I'll give like a really quick rundown. I don't know what everything about this unit yet, but I know the couple things that stood out were A, this first passive is just absolutely exceptional. That comes out really strong with a lot of modern day, not only penetrations, but modern day resistances with the both kinds of AoE wide res. I know his limit break really pops off to people though, where this is the first time in the game until Final Fantasy Tactics, the first time we've ever had this remove physical or protect 2.0 buff. No one's been able to remove this yet. This is the Gilgamesh equivalent of removing magic damage. So Garrousa comes out, has it on the limit break here. The disable chance here again is another status effect to throw into the fold, and I I can't remember if there's an increased chance for this to proc anywhere in his kit or not.
No.
But regardless, 40% there, and obviously a very strong wind apparel, which great for him. But you're probably gonna have Shrek in the party here too, given that he's a katana unit, which is part of that overall character evaluation. Him being a katana unit and a wind unit literally slots in perfectly to give that team some gas. I'm not gonna lie, half of me is excited a little bit. Half of me is very upset that this is now another piece for Sephiroth to maintain dominance. That all of a sudden you get another katana unit that's a wind unit, and Sephiroth now can take advantage of this removal of physical damage reduction. Like, there's some synergy there. There's a lot to like about this character, but I'll pause there.
100% agreed. And I'm gonna throw something out there that I think we're probably gonna see a wind fire dark esper incoming to kind of top off this cap this meta. Um, I really wouldn't be surprised to see that next week. But he's got like a self debuff dispel, which is super good. I think for bruisers like this, in the mid fight to cleanse themselves and then suddenly take a lot less damage because of it. He's got like the mid fight barrier that he can apply as well with that large X attack. That's like a debuff weakening in peril too, which is pretty strong with against certain teams. Um, but yeah, he's kind of like a strong all-around bruiser. He's got some good stuff against physical and magical damage, so I think he's pretty well-rounded. And he looks like he's going to be an exceptional damage dealer with he's got a couple different imperils here at his disposal. This large X attack is also a guaranteed hit too, so you can build him bulky and kind of rely on that for any semi-evade out there.
Definitely. And a really important thing to note is that he comes with barrier seal as well. So when he does apply units with their inability to break barriers mid fight, he will give himself where is it this one? Yeah, it is this one. He will give himself a 30% barrier that's unbreakable. So talk about like an extra 30% damage mitigation of all types. It's not impossible to overcome. It's only 30% at the end of the day. That's competitive with some of these other mitigations, but the fact that it's as reliable as it is going to still be very strong to get through. Um, Nothing else to say other than exceptionally good.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how strong that is with Resnick right now, where
Right.
she heals up and provides the 2-hit 50% magic barrier. So if you're trying to take magic into her, like you start to kind of lose that war of attrition very quickly in the mid fight. This is very similar. It doesn't have the healing aspect, but um, it's the same effect in terms of the barrier. The cool thing here though is it's not a hit based barrier. This is a 3-turn barrier. So he's going to have that mitigation, pretty much for the rest of the fight after he uses this. So looks really good. He has the ability to use the Reliquary's Katana for that 10% agility passive or whatever it is. He's got the agility passive on top of having like a high 70 base agility or including the board. So this character, like if you have Dark Tetra on him with the global bestowed and the Reliquary's Katana, I can see this getting up to like 140 plus agility, which is absolutely insane.
Quite frankly, I don't know how you beat this unit. I haven't thought enough about it. I don't think anything exists in the game at the moment to really like counter this unit. So that's gonna be very interesting to see what comes after him. I'm gonna put it on record. I think Ice Varouche is the next one coming in here. I think he's the one. They're setting it up with the lore that it's going to be Varouche versus Garrousa. And we've gotten a lot of lore drops on that character that I would be fairly positive that might be the angle they go here to counter him. So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
I'm certainly going to have to try with the Frost Veritas and see what he can do because a lot of his mitigation here is more wide specific and AoE specific. And he doesn't have curse resistance as far as I remember either. So,
Good point.
that could be a way to get at this unit. I
Very
don't know. I
good.
feel it could be copium, but I'll definitely give it a try. I think it's going to be kind of the battle of ice, water, and wind, fire. And, we have Exia, we have Gilgamesh, we've got the Frost Lord. Is it enough to kind of be competitive with this team? We'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to know, this is like kind of comical to me. I would love to know who designs this unit because I really want to know what was the motivation for them to put this on the passive for 5% physical damage extra. Like, that's the first time we've ever had that value here in the game. So it's not like someone was just taking like a canned set of abilities. They just, yeah, we'll just throw it here and throw it here. Someone sat down and was like, this unit, this passive, it's already got 4 things. Let's add a fifth thing to it. What fifth thing do we want to add? How about 5% physical damage? Like who thought of that? I would love to know the rationale.
Yeah, that kind of stuck out to me too. That was strange.
Very
That
odd.
passive is busted though. Like the kind of a new slash pen kind of mechanic there where increases the effect 2% for each time you receive damage. So he can get up to 50% slash res pen baked in, kind of in the middle of the fight. The 40% AoE pen, and then I guess you can either go the agility route if you want to make him real speedy with the dragoon passive, or you can go for the defense pen. It's got accuracy. So yeah, I don't think he necessarily needs the agility, but you can, like I was saying, you can make him super fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that does bring us to the segment of the podcast. And I know we've kind of gone through a little bit faster than we might normally have, where we talk about Final Fantasy Tactics. Everyone's obviously super excited, ourselves included. We've got a ton of information, and quite frankly, probably more information than the Leonis support can cover. There's a lot of new things to recap, a lot of like analysis on each one that goes through. We'll still try to give some general thoughts and some impressions on each one of the units, because you also have to consider we're getting some upgrades to the Sortilege and the Nagnarok weapon as well. And then, fortunately, GUMI is going to be really generous. Everyone is also getting a free select 120 ticket for these units that you can pick any one of the four if you do not have them and get them to 120 immediately. So, um,
Yeah, that's what we're hearing from JP, is that I think as a login present in a couple of days, they're going to be getting a select ticket, and it's 120 unit out of any of these original tactics units. And I think both of us have them all, but I know a lot of people don't have them all. Players will be coming in for this event too. They can so I think that was a really good move. Yeah, I'm excited for that.
yeah, the fact, and actually, before we get into the units, let's talk a little bit about the collab in general, because I do want to take a couple minutes to applaud GUMI again for this. I think all of this is above and beyond what any of us expected or predicted. They not only have done the 140s and made them relatively competitive in terms of most of the upgrades, but they upgraded some of the stats, the base stats on the units too. They're not amazing, but they actually touched the base stats, which is more than I would have predicted. And even some of the abilities, they just decided we're going to, hey, rework this ability for free. It's not going to be part of the 140. It's not going to be a special upgrade or whatever. We're just going to literally change this ability just because. So the fact that they did all of those things, in addition to now the free select 120, I think really does this justice, where a lot of people were pessimistic about how they would approach the collab and how much effort they would put in. I also thought people were a little dismayed that we weren't going to get any new units. So I think that was part of it, where we thought these units are 3 to 4 years old and they're obviously very much power crept. How much can they realistically do? And so I think people were not looking forward to that. But GUMI cooked. And I think that's a really good sign that they were not shy about being very generous with some of these upgrades. I think that's a really good thing.
I definitely agree with that. Like that was kind of where I was sitting, where I got very disappointed when I heard they weren't going to implement anything new, even like a new vision card or something would have been really nice. Because that's exactly what I thought. I thought, these are 80 cost units. Year one, it was a different era for the game. It's going to take so much for them to even be able to sniff the meta. I think they made a reasonable attempt at doing just that, though. And I think overall they were reasonably successful in that goal. Are they carry meta units? Absolutely not. But I think they're going to be potentially viable role players in some teams. And Orlando is living a charmed life. He got the best upgrades once again, and he looks stellar. So Yeah, let's take a look at some of these.
Yeah, I'm glad you spoiled that. I so badly want to give my thoughts, but we'll go through them individually here. I kind of rank these implicitly by my personal least impressive to most impressive. Not all of them got upgrades equally, and there are still deficiencies with some of these characters. I know I'm probably a little more pessimistic on Ramza than you are, JB. What they did for Ramza, they gave him some 15% permanent damage reduction of both physical and magic. There's still some things in the kit though that they didn't do anything to touch his passive, so these are still sad to see at sight. But they've done something really cool with this main buff here, and I know you're really excited for this. I'll actually let you talk about this if you want a little bit more, because this is an exceptionally cool buff that they decided to give him.
Yeah, this is his signature shout buff. This is what Ramza is known for, even in like all the various gotcha games that he's been part of. He's that kind of damage slash support role has always been what they've strived for with this unit. And it's been kind of hit or miss in War of the Visions. He's been kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, and that's you know been kind of the story with him. I do think they've done they part of this upgrade was done in the last round when they got the MA2s. So they kind of adjusted this buff, went up to the 60% attack and magic. Got the bravery on there, the defense. Now it's getting a CT effect as well, which is really cool. Get 300 CT, which is very very significant. 30 CT is huge.
Yep.
That's the wizard rod right there.
Yep.
Um, and that's AOE. That's going to be on everybody, your whole team. I imagine that probably would stack with the wizard rod, but I haven't seen that interaction yet, so I couldn't fully comment on that. But this does actually increase like some of his penetrations and things like that, which is cool. Does give the AOE protect, which we've seen be very valuable in the current meta. So yeah, that's huge. That despite them not fixing his passives, the Shadow Runner is still okay. And then you can kind of get him the mobility there with Shikuchi. So that's kind of one thing that's nice about this unit is he does have huge mobility that he can get. He can get up to 5 innately. He's got 2 passives for move. You could use a TMR or the new Sortilege item and get him up to 6 or potentially even 7 with a buff. So that's pretty insane.
Yep.
He can use Keenblade. The nice thing about Ramza and Delita both is that they can use armor and cloth, which is with all the new TMRs, that gives him like pretty nice flexibility. Is he like, I think overall I would agree, like in terms of the upgrades, it does feel light compared to a couple of the others, but yeah, I don't have like super high hopes for him, but I think that he could be like a decent role player in some teams.
Yeah, I think role player is absolutely it because, he's one of those units that has tried to be somewhat hybrid. And I think they've done a decent job at trying to do so. He does both defense and spirit imperil on this upgrade. And again, we can't go through everything. There's simply just too much to cover. But like you have defense and spirit imperils here. On his buff, you have defense and spirit penetration for him. His limit break is now far more compelling that it's a break general barrier here, while having all the dispels as well as having the 38% magic imperil. Like this limit break used to be very difficult. So I think they've done a lot better at getting him closer to where they want to be. My personal hesitation with him is simply comes down to his overall survivability. I don't think there's enough here for him that when I look at, and it's not a perfect science, but like overall effective HP, there's things missing here from like unit res and AoE res and even some of the AoE wide res stuff that, yeah, he's got a little barrier here, physical barrier by like 35%. Like that's nice. But outside of that, Protect is great, but it's really just versus Sephiroth. There are other physical oriented units that can also dispel this. That I think how much he'll stand up on the field is very suspect, but there's no doubt the teammate utility is there. I just know that there's not a lot of other compelling things for me outside of this shout buff. But this is a good offensive upgrade here.
I think we're like at the stage of the game where a lot of the tech in the game can now be dispelled or cut through.
Right.
And it's at this point now, it's all about how do you protect what the units that you're putting out there have? What kind of seals are you able to bring in? And this unit, and he does have like he has the protect, he's got the barrier, he's got a few things, but those are easily taken away unless you can protect them. So that's what it's going to be all about if you're using this unit. Yeah,
Agreed.
that's about all I have to say.
or innately. That's what like not even
Or
ceiling,
if
but
they,
like having innate. Like we just saw Garrousa on his
yeah,
passive as all these things. You know that uptime is going to be 100% uptime. So I that's why when I think of these character evaluations, I try not to take too many buffs into consideration because at the end of the day, there's always counterplay and some X's and O's to it. But I know at the minimum, this is what the character is going to be, and I think that that's usually correlates to be accurate. Um, all things
he's
considered.
always had AP issues too, and they didn't do anything to address that. So that's definitely still a big hole for him.
Good call out
So
there. Yep, I like it. But we will keep going here because I know there's three other characters we want to get through all of them. To me, Delita was the second one that I was not in love with. Kind of similar to Ramza, and actually Delita's always been a bit of a glass cannon. I think they tried to overcorrect that by giving him in the MA2 the physical damage barrier, which is a really nice upgrade. Quite frankly, I think this is a really good one. They also gave him a heal back now on his increased passive, so I do think they've done some things to give him a little more of a life in terms of overall survivability, but he's always had really great like overall attack stat. They've given him both kinds of penetrations here on the 140, so he's now at 60 defense pen permanently based off that 140 and the MA2. He's at 30 AoE res pen here. He's got 40 slash res pen here, and I'm actually just gonna cheat for a second. This little summary here is the weapon summary for the Nagnarok and the Sortilege and the oh my god, Sword of Lazalia. I know for Ramza, just to close that loop there, they did give him AP consumption down on the Nagnarok, and I'll be honest, just to kind of broadly speak, I do think the Nagnarok is likely the best in slot sword for most of these units. It might not be the most damage potentially, because a lot of these units have weapons that have a lot of element attack on them potentially. But I think the other intangibles on here, like the agility up or the debuff weakening, I think those things are likely more impactful than like an extra 10 modifier, if you know what I mean. So um I do like that for so I would think of these units with this weapon. And so like for Delita, they also give him slash res pen here as well, and magic wide guard, which I think is exceptionally important for Delita because he's at negative 10 magic res. That always drove me bonkers that made him to be this like anti-magic unit based on the silence effect of his limit break. And I'm like, how are you gonna have him be like any remotely high faith and be negative 10% magic res? But um they've done some decent upgrades here where they've given him a
well, it used to be worse. It
it
used
used
to
to be
be at
worse.
20, so they gave him another 10 in this update.
Did they really?
Yeah, if you go to global, it's at 20 minus 20 right now.
Thank you. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was that bad. Thank you.
Same
Yes.
with Orlando as well. He was at minus 20 before.
Good call out. Good call out. Um, but yeah, overall, like his upgrades here, like they've given him some pre-damage dispel on that very sexy 48% in peril. Everyone loves to see that. I'll pause for a second. There's still a huge weakness for this character. I don't know if you'll point it out for me, but I've said enough. I'll let you give some deleted thoughts.
So, I mean, similar to Ramza, this unit also has huge AP issues. He doesn't really have any buff available in the main kit to garner him any AP. So you have to rely on the sub jobs, which are soldier, which also, I mean, has like a really, the hazard spell or whatever is a really bad buff. So then he's relying on paladin at that point. Thankfully, at this point, we do have plenty of nice TMRs that have been coming in lately that can give him access to some other new age buffs, like wide res or honeycomb barrier or these other things. You could even put bells or something like that if you really needed to. Um, so yeah, so that's definitely a problem that they didn't address at all, like in terms of we always wanted that buff from Squire to be added into the main kit, where it gives him, the attack and magic, and it gives, pretty nice AP. That was what they needed to do on the last go around. Unfortunately, they didn't. So, I mean, the LB upgrade is pretty nice on him. He gets, I think, an additional 2 range, gets up to 6 range now on the 67% silence.
Yep.
It's an absorb attack now, which is nice. So if he's incurred any damage from the magic damage dealers on his way in. They're kind of like trying to fit him into or shoehorn him into that, anti-magic role, which had been difficult for him to do if he couldn't land the silence in the past. But his damage, I think, is going to be really, really strong. His penetrations are among some of the best,
Agreed.
especially because they added the AoE res in there. And he has the 60%, self-sacrifice on like a 400 plus base attack. He can easily get over 2000 attack
Yep.
with nice penetrations, good mods. The 48% imperil, if he gets in on you and uses the Karma Blade there, you're toast, man. Like that's gonna damage cap a lot of folks.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I think it's good but not great.
Um, I think the really cool thing to call out, this ability upgrade, very good. The Dispel, Protect, and Haste, Dispel Courage, Dispel Re-Raise, and this is the Garrousa effect. I'm pretty positive that now Delita has this. I'm pretty sure this is remove
Yeah.
physical damage, right? So like now Garrousa and Delita are two of the only. I don't remember if Cid has it. He might. Two of the only units that now have this. This is going to hurt a lot. And to your point on the buffs, that's what
And
always.
this one is on
Oh,
demand where Garusa's was just on the LB. This has
right,
got 4 uses of this. That's huge.
right.
Plus it's like the Octo slash LB with the Dispel, Re-Raise, and Courage in the same skill.
Yep.
That's actually a pretty insane skill.
Very good. Yeah, so I'm very happy with the and I'll say this, by and large, all these characters got immensely great offensive upgrades. To me, it's really more about the bulk and survivability potential of them, that I don't see as many of the same things in terms of like permanent AoE and unit res and some of the other like damage absorb mechanics. Some of them have it. Orlando certainly does. Um, that's a big part of his kit, but the other units a little bit less so. But I can't help but still laugh that he does not have a buff on the main job. To your point, that's like crazy to me that he does not. He literally does not have a buff on the main job. Like, what are you supposed to do? The Squire buff here is a really good one. I typically will like use this if I can, but even then, it's always debatable whether it's worth you just using a TMR or just going Paladin and having him use Courage. But if there's no Courage Protect, how much does that really mean nowadays? Um, it's kind of tough, but I'm looking forward to seeing the damage, but relatively lower hopes for this unit.
Yeah, I think once upon a time you couldn't envision not using the Immortal Spirit. With all the removal now, like if you don't have somebody that can protect that status, you might as well not use it at all and definitely go for the Squire buff because that 40% reduced AP consumption is really, really nice.
Right, right. To your
Flip,
AP point, that reduced consumption and his passive upgrade here is acquired AP up to 50%. So I think the two of those in conjunction have made it a little bit better. I haven't done the math, so I don't know if it's that much better or not, but there's an attempt.
yep, definitely.
Yeah. But that then brings us to Gloria. I'm kidding, Agrias. I'm sorry. Uh,
Ooh, it's a low blow.
Agrias is the OG. Let's be real. The Gloria is just Agrias 2.0. That's a sort of Convalia reference for anyone who's been in a closet for the last 2 months. Agrias, very interesting approach to what they've done with her. Where obviously old school tank, amazingly great upgrades on the 140 for what I would have liked to have seen. The 50% curse res is awesome. The healing power is certainly amazing, where she has regen and she does have some teammate healing capabilities. They went absolutely bonkers with the ability upgrade here, where she's very speedy for a tank. She's got 2 different agility passives potentially. The increased chance of being targeted is still there. A lot of it's still here, but the honeycomb barrier permanently is very nice. That we are seeing upticks in removal of honeycomb barriers. They're not everywhere, but they're now starting to creep up. I love seeing these permanently. It's not a huge amount. You're only going at 3% per square, but still, like that's a certain percent that you just can't ignore. And a big thing for Agrias, which always was her thing, was the status effect game. Most notably on the limit break here, but they have done a wonderful job playing into the stop status effect here, where one of the abilities they just upgraded because they felt like it was whatever this translates to. I forgot what it was, but this is her Dispel Re-Raise. This is now the 40% chance to inflict stop, and decreases their defense and Spirit Pen, which we've seen does have some really great tanking potential. Summer Glaciella noticeably does it, but there's other units like uh, Squall and Duran who do it less effectively. But for Agrias, this is excellent. But I think I'll pause there because I've said enough. I know there's still like the aura to talk about. There's some other things to talk about, but I'll let you take it here if there's anything else that you want to cover so far.
Yeah, the passive upgrade is crazy how much is in there. They got the so she didn't have that 24% HP before. That's new. The AP consumption went up from 20 to 30. The reduced physical damage taken 12% makes her more of an omni tank.
I didn't even see that. I'll be honest.
And then like the physical and magical honeycomb effect from range 3 to 6. It's only from 9 to 18% in terms of the mitigation, but having that just on always is pretty nice.
Yep.
And it's going to drop units to her to do more damage too, so that can kind of round enemies up and potentially, use that to your advantage. The additional chance to apply stop is based on her having regen, so that's kind of tied into her buff that she has, her party buff that kind of hands off that regen to the team. And it does give her a new aura effect, which is really, really cool. It's an aura we haven't seen yet. It's gives shell to the team, so 25% magic mitigation, gives a stun resistance or stun nullify, and then all element resistant or debuff all element resistance 100, so you can't be imperiled while that effect is active. That's pretty crazy, especially like you look at Sephiroth has the all element res down. Garrousa, who we looked at, has the wind imperil. That this will cover that. Assuming it doesn't get dispelled pre-hit, which can certainly happen, and then the aura will flash back on afterwards. So you will have to account for that. You can protect this with a dispel seal, like from Exia or from Alaya or some other units. Shrek has it too. So that's kind of something you need to think about. This is essentially just a party-wide buff that she kind of walks around with. So you need to protect it if you can. The LB upgrade is also super nice. It goes to 100% hit. It dispels physical honeycomb barrier. So haven't seen that yet on anyone. It does get the counter chance reduction. And it adds a second status effect here, the poison. So that's if they recover and confuse, they could get poisoned, which is going to increase the damage there. I think these upgrades are not the best out of the bunch, but very, very compelling. I think that I can see cases where you would use this, especially since she's part of the Red Mage group, which has excellent cards and excellent units in it.
Agreed. To answer Logi's question, the stop percentage chance, it's 25% normally. It's only 40% if regen is active. So that is a component. It has to be active. But yeah, I think this is a great approach where she also has the silence capability. Like, there's only so many status effects that you can guard against. That to me, like as a tank unit, she is tanky enough. Her HP is, my God, in the 16,000 plus to 18,000 plus, depending upon your cards and reincarnation levels. Obviously, some ice mastery can add in there, but bulk wise, there's a lot of things to like. There's some things that I think are still missing that a tank would like to have. Again, noticeably absent is like the unit res or AoE res is kind of a bare minimum, but the honeycomb does make up for it a little bit. The physical damage taken reduction certainly makes up for it. That I think there's still enough there to compensate for it.
She does have she's always had the unit resist. She was like the original unit that had
Oh, I'm
unit
sorry. You're right.
resistance.
That is
So
correct.
she has 20.
20. I'm
She
sorry.
doesn't have any kind of wide res or any AoE res, so she is susceptible to to large AoE damage like a Sephiroth. But I think the honeycomb combined with the physical damage reduction in the passive I think it's good enough that she's not going to be one shot by him. She will take heavy damage certainly though from him.
Well, enough for nothing, she's got curse resistance. So if anything, he can't take away her regen. So if she lands a stop on Sephiroth, there you go. Like, problem solved. So I think as long as she can live long enough, I know this is a full credit to you. You have some building ideas with her and Exia to seal, dispel, and obviously use that water ice synergy. I didn't really think that far ahead between the two of them. I think you're spot on. I think that's a really fun one to look out for.
Yeah, I think as long as Sephiroth is in the meta, like if you're playing ice, you probably want to have some water protection, and the fact that she does have the dispel seal to enhance the aura that Agrias brings, I think is could be interesting. I'll at least try it out and see how it goes. I do want to mention that another thing that the development team did with these enhancements is any buffs that are part of the kit have gone to that new age 4-turn limit, so they're no
Yeah.
longer just the 3-turn buffs. So Yeah, any of like the, the barrier, like all the different effects are now 4 turns, which is super nice too.
Excellent call out. Excellent call. Wow, I read so much here. I didn't even see the disable chance. She's got disable too, guys. Good luck. Uh,
And stun
and stun. Wait, where's stun?
in paladin.
No, yeah, stun blade. You're right, isn't it? Oh
Yeah, the
my
first one.
god. Good luck. Holy shit. Um,
That's why Agrias was the queen of class
Manual.
match early on in
Uh,
manual. She had you couldn't stop the status effects.
I like it. I like it. But yeah, high hopes for her overall, and I think that leads us to the granddaddy of them all, pun intended. Orlando, TG said, I'm still a little bit in disbelief. He is one of the few that I do think is at that like 100 cost meta competitive level for a lot of what they've done. Uh, Again, not only offensively, we're going to go through all of that, but again, I have that bias of like survivability. His effective HP is right there with like all the fourth anniversary units, where some of these other ones, Agrias the exception, she's a tank, but like Delita and Ramza are more like in the White Lotus Fina range, where it's like, okay, I guess that's fine. Like TG said, and that's not including any of the buffs in his kit yet, which we will be going through. But he did get a relatively good MA2 back in the day to kind of address some of his deficiencies, but now the 140, like, bro, how do you look at this, look at Ramza and say this is fair? Like, this is exceptional to go 40 AoE res
Yeah,
pen, the 20% magical damage reduction, the 40 reaction proc rate, 10 healing power, obviously the upgrades to the ability. He does so much here. They enhanced his passive ability, the main one here, where now it's also getting 25% accuracy that was not there before. 40 slash res pen here as well, which nope, not there. 40 slash res pen here, and he's got the innate 20% AoE wide res. 20% is significant on a passive like this, while still having some really awesome other passives to choose from. You can obviously go for more slash res pen here to get him to 80 innately. You don't even have to do that, I don't think, but a couple other things here. I don't even want to call this a buff anymore. This is like next level stuff of what they've decided to do, where they've given him the unit and AoE res above 70% HP that hopefully should be able to proc. I need to check on the dispel game here if this is dispellable since it's conditional. I don't know if it is or not, but I would have to look at that.
I would think that it still would be dispellable. He actually with the previous upgrades, the MA2, he got the 40 AoE resistance there, but they've added in the unit resistance here on top of it. So as long as like if he's in a party where he's able to sort of get healed up or topped off, like that's a nice competitive advantage. Again, if you do need to be able to protect it with sealing and things like that, but this buff is pretty crazy. It gives them the courage effect here now as well. It gives them the absorb damage effect, and to top it all off, he does get he's reducing or eliminating wide res buffs from the target on
On hit.
hits,
Ridiculous.
which yeah, so they've given him a lot of new age things that we haven't frankly seen on units that have been coming out brand new into the game. So I absolutely agree. I think that he makes a compelling case that he could be thrown in there and have like potentially some decent results in the right team.
Yeah, this buff is exceptional. We didn't even talk about the nullify curse component of it. That is a
And
huge
immobilize.
and immobilize, right, for Shrek. So this is an immense counterplay to the current meta. We're not even like really done talking about it. Like there's still so much more here where he's still got like the decreased slash res here, which certainly helps damage. I think this is the coolest thing though. The nullify CT up here. We've been using the Fang TMR as of late to counterplay some of the CT up that we've seen, where obviously the Wizard Rod comes to mind, but even units like Gilgamesh have CT up in their kit when they kill certain enemies. That this nullification here to put in the battle also. I mean, in addition to all these abilities that have all this extra damage upside of like the unit crush for just this attack, like it's a low modifier, but like that's still a sizable imperil here for that ability. The lightning imperil of 38% is certainly big. This is still a great ability of the healing power down of 70. That's a very noticeable number of healing power down. And just kind of jumping ahead because there's probably still stuff to obviously like talk about with the sub jobs. But the limit break, my god, this diamond for 33 AP physical barrier break now and dispels both kinds of honeycombs. It's not just physical. That's a crazy good teammate synergy. I actually look for that more often than not in some of these units to see if they dispel both kinds. And I remember really liking that about Angela that just came out, where she can like dispel both kinds of wide res, because it means you can really flexibly put them in a party and of like magic and physical and still like give some utility to the magic unit. But yeah, I mean this the modifiers getting increased here. It's still excellent with the haste. Like, whew, I need to take a breath, guys. JB, take it. I'm out of breath today.
I mean, to what I was just saying there, where they're giving him stuff here that we're not even seeing on the latest units. Garrousa, I think we were just looking at. Didn't he just? He was actually the first unit I think that we've seen before Orlando that could also dispel honeycomb, but his was just physical. If I'm remembering
I,
back
I
to
think
our
so.
earlier conversation. Yeah, so Orlando kind of one upping him there, getting both kinds on his limit burst. It's in a similar targeting pattern too. It's like the range 6 large cross. Um, but yeah, he gets the haste effect on there. He's got also the barrier break. He does have a barrier break in those job 25 also, which is also a large AOE. This unit, I think he has some things that can really help out Ramada. We were talking about that before the stream. I was like, he can imperil lightning at 38%. He's got the honeycomb, removal. I think that could actually go pretty nicely together. And Red Mage and Spear actually, have some nice new cards that you could use in addition to lightning cards. So um, I'm pretty excited about Orlando. I think he got definitely the best of the upgrades.
Didn't even talk about yet his sword upgrades here. So he's got extra defense pen. So hold on a second. That was the one thing that I remember um, thinking that the defense pen on him was a little bit below average. He's got 30 here on the MA2. I think that might have been it. I don't think he had defense pen anyway. He does have a defense break, which can help.
Hmm.
But I think that was one of the small things that I remember thinking to myself, oh, like that's below average, because everything else is way above average. So I think, but the sword does look to address that a little bit with the defense pen up, and the agility percent up here too. They did get a couple agility points. Each one of these units, not a crazy amount of agility points, but each one got like 2 or 3. But that's the kind of thing that adds up. And so this agility percent does stack with like raw agility points from like a trust stone or like bells in terms of what you get for agility. So Orlando got the debuff weakening here too for modern tech. Whew, it's nice.
I think if you look at the actual stat upgrades that all the units got, he got the best stat upgrades as well, where he got a bump in his base agility and total agility. He also got a bump up in his dex and luck numbers, which granted were already the best of the bunch, in terms of those. But if you look at his stats now, like pretty close to like what we're seeing for brand new units. The HP is a little bit less, but aside from that, it's like pretty darn close,
Uh,
especially since he has a 60% attack passive.
he can still get pretty high though. So JB had done a little mock up in the build here. I don't. It's not perfect because I think you said you might have not put in TMR. Oh, no, you did. You did.
I
Um,
did.
yeah, and I think is this max reincarnated or no? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
So like
Yep.
max, just based off of like a quick look at some VCs, like yeah, they're looking at some healthy limits here of 14,000 HP for Cid, Agrias, killing it at 17k. Um, Again, these stats are just kind of like a ballpark. The takeaway for me is just to get an idea. I do think overall they're a little bit lower on the dex and luck. I think that's whereas the 80 cost units, that's probably their
Yeah.
biggest weakness, where that's going to affect their critical hit rates. It's going to affect their hit rates. These are not pseudo evade units. I think that's kind of where they've equalized it. That they're still like 50 to 100 points behind sometimes in some of those stats. And even the board, like the skill trees, I think Orlando's the highest here at 17% crit rate, but the rest of them have like basically nothing. So I think that's the
Yeah.
downside, but
Also, them taking crits as well with the lower luck. They're
correct.
not as much. Not They don't have as much like baked in crit evasion as new units. So um, that's the thing. Like, can you reasonably expect them to be just as good as Garrousa? I don't think so. But the fact that the package here is nearly as compelling in a lot of ways, I think says a lot about what they were able to do here.
Absolutely. And Yeah, we'll pause there. We'll keep going because I think there's just a couple other very small things to touch on. But I think it's noteworthy to talk about the Lazalia upgrade here for Agrias as well. I thought this was nice that they gave her some penetrations for a tank-oriented character. You don't often see that on these tank-type units that the penetrations are, I guess they're there. They're usually 10 to 20, but that's certainly nice to see that they decided to go that route. This is still great for the accuracy stat. I do think this is potentially still a best in slot item for her. I know tanks normally don't equip weapons, but um, this one might be worth the consideration. I'd really have to check to see if it's worth the extra damage or whether you'd rather just go for an Alex ring or just go for an extra piece of bulking gear. I think that's likely the case. I don't think this is most common, but it's nice.
I think this is something you would use if you were going for like a damage build on the unit. Otherwise, I would just double up on like armor and accessory and kind of bulk up.
Yep.
But I think there is like a legitimate path to like, like a bruiser damage build for her because they did upgrade her chivalry passive as well, which is her attack passive.
Yep.
And it now gives her like a physical damage increase. You can think about like using Dark Titan on her for like defense pen upgrades. You have the Lucio card for the Red Mage group, which has slash wrist penetration. So I think like it's not like full copium that you could build like a damage focused Agrias and it wouldn't be like the worst thing ever. But I don't think that's going to be like really where she shines the most.
I would agree. And Brian just asked a great question. Gafgarion and Mustadio. I'll be honest, I haven't given them a second thought. Those are such like troll characters that I'm sure they got great upgrades. I need to read them quite more, but I know they were so far behind, and they are such lower rarity, lower cost units. I don't.
Gafgarion is not doing anything.
Yeah,
Mustadio maybe in like cost limited could potentially be seen, but yeah, we should take a look at them another time because
yeah.
this was a lot.
It was. But I think the last thing to call out that I think, sorry, Brian, I hate to say it, but no, I will push back. Gafgarion may have got great upgrades, but he's not going to do crap with it. We'll kind of like the limit break upgrades to some of these older units. Like,
He's too far off,
yeah,
to be a competitive unit.
yeah. I do wanted to call out the Sortilege though, which very cool accessory that I always thought this is still a good accessory, even in the modern era. This is still a great like PVE item for the attack buff. But the Final Fantasy Tactics units are getting a very cool buff for this. They're getting 15 unit res and move +1 for one turn. I am so excited for this move +1. I was talking to JB about like the troll potential of some of these units that Ramza and Delita can both get to like +5 move innately. 4 move with a passive. This will put him at 5. The buff will put him at 6. So you could have them buff turn 1 and move 6 squares forward. Like you talk about like bait strategies. I think this is a really interesting one for some of these units to play with and maybe throw some people off, catch them off guard. I don't think it's a winning strategy per se. I think Delita just YOLOing into the battlefield is not going to yield you great results. But I think it's a really interesting thing to think about to say like, hey, this is Summer Resnick or a Shreka. Can he just walk forward and like silence him with the limit break with the extra move +1? I think it's worth entertaining.
I've Yeah, I mean like a passive +1 on an item is insane. Like we haven't seen it ever in the game. So um we have of course the bow tie, which is to this point our only kind of passive movement, and we use it constantly
Right.
all the time. We see it. So this is like a competitive advantage, in terms of like tuning the team that you can potentially be used. And that's like a unique aspect here for them, which is cool. Um, Brian, to the Gafgarion train that you're on, I will say one kind of thing in his favor is that his shards are absolutely free, so it'll be an easy reincarnation at pretty much no cost. So there is that. I think for like PVE, like he could be like decent. There is some nice upgrades there though. To be frank, I just think he's pretty far off.
He's so far off. Where are you seeing that he's even potentially remotely good? He's got no slash res pen at all in this kit. Uh, he's got some on-hit effects. Just this cast. This Dark Imperil is only for light units. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to take 2 minutes to tear this apart. Um, yeah. Wait a minute. Okay, he's got 30 slash rest pen here on the ability for 3 turns. I guess 30%'s nice, I guess. Um, the AoE, that's cool. There's nothing else here. There's no other, like, yeah, I'm sorry. Pass. Hard pass.
Not a competitive unit.
No, not even close. Uh, but it is the troll
He's
kit.
free though, like so. Like, what are you gonna expect?
Hey, if you need a 50 cost unit, he's probably as good as many of them in his own right. 50 cost is not a hard hurdle to
I
beat.
think like looking at the upgrades, like you could probably put him next to like the free Lucio unit, and they've probably got him in that same or similar ballpark. I still don't think he's quite as good as Lucio, but it's much more closer than it was yesterday. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, his limit break is really nice. Oh wait, he doesn't have a limit break. I'm sorry. I had to. But no, I do think that covers mostly everything that we wanted to go over. You know, we're at an hour and 15. There's obviously a lot to cover with this that we probably still haven't gone over in terms of ability upgrades, but I think that covers most of our thoughts. Very excited for Cid. That's my big takeaway. But yeah, what are you thinking so far?
In terms of like the upgrades that they've done historically in the, we're coming up on 5 years of the game, we haven't ever seen anything this substantial on legacy units that isn't tied into some kind of cost or power creep. So from that standpoint, I think they deserve recognition for that. And we've had a really, really rough year plus with the game, and this is something that feels good. So I want to recognize it.
Absolutely agreed. Right. We want to. That's been our biggest thing is that we want the game to feel like they're actively working on it. They're not just turning the wheel. They're not just doing whatever makes them the most bottom or increases the bottom line and makes a quick buck in the short term at the expense of the long term. I think these upgrades though are like very competitive. They're competitive enough that people are going to use their viz on it. And at the end of the day, I guess it's a good thing for them still. But it took some really specific thought and engineering to make these upgrades. They bucked some trends, which doesn't normally happen with GUMI and this game. So I think that by itself is a good signal. And more than anything, they've listened. I mean, how often can we keep saying tactics, 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 and they just do nothing, right? They obviously did look at the biggest piece of feedback and tried to do whatever they could with it within the confines of what exists. And I think that absolutely deserves some credibility. So, yeah, absolutely.
Plus, one of the things, we've been very disappointed with many of the limit burst upgrades, which have been like the third year, like sort of power creep stabilizer, which have been very unsuccessful thus far because they haven't, on the majority of them, haven't really done enough there to actually bring the units into the picture. Um, but they have really gone the extra mile here, which we were like, where's the new tech? And here it is. Many of these skills, they are getting stuff that is competitive with what we're seeing on modern units.
Yeah. And just to answer a couple chat questions here about character reviews, I actually will be doing character reviews for these units. I think these changes are drastic enough that I do want to reevaluate them and like kind of a fresh set of eyes, if you know what I mean. That if you guys can look out for that, I'm not going to do it like this week. There's still some stuff that I need to finish for the Trials of Mana collab. Obviously, Crimson Wizard and Sadali have precedent or preference for me to get them done first, but I am going to try to mingle some reviews in for tactics characters that to try to grade them on the scale that I grade modern units and just to kind of give some context.
I'm planning on doing a video as well.
Nice.
I'm not going to review them individually or anything, but I probably closer to when the event comes to global, I'll have something out because that's actually news for me. I actually have been working on my first video in 3 months now. My last one was Cipher, so look for that. It should probably be out either tomorrow or maybe the next day. We'll see how long it takes me to finish editing it. So
I'm excited. Right on. Glad to hear that. We'll keep an eye out. But yeah, that's everything we got through. We're at an hour and 19. I know we normally go a little bit longer, but I think this is a healthy spot to stop. But do appreciate everyone being here tonight. This is obviously per usual awesome. And just Luciano, the Final Fantasy Tactic units, I think they got upgrades. All of them got limit break upgrades. So
Yeah.
it was more than just stats and passives. So it will require some analysis to look at everything. But yeah, this was obviously very exciting for us to talk about. I know everyone was asking about it too, and so hopefully we at least gave a little bit of information about it, some summary, some thoughts that helped give you guys some direction. But the game, again, we said this last week or the week before, it's trending in the right direction for me. I do feel better about it in the last like 2 to 3 weeks. I can see that they're starting to try to adjust things. Is it still necessarily as fast? Should have gotten to this point in the first place? Probably not. Do I wish they put in a curse res raid item a month and a half ago? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so done with curse meta. There's no doubt about that. Sephiroth is way overdue, but I think they've done some good things to put out some cool new units. Obviously, Hear Us Here. The live stream last night was a good move. That I think these are some small things that we should start to ease up a little bit on them on. We should still, you know, uh, be vocal in our own right, but I think this is all good stuff.
I think a lot, there's some pieces here that kind of help a little bit combat, the curse meta that's been going on with Sephiroth, which has been part of like the staleness of the current meta. So it'll be nice to have maybe some additional options that you can at least look at. So I'm looking forward to this tactic stuff for that reason too. I'm still kind of waiting for a raid item or some TMR that can kind of open it up a bit more because, especially with Garrousa coming in, that's kind of tough.
Yep.
But I agree. The overall trajectory is looking better than it was a couple months ago. Hopefully they can kind of build upon that as we could come into the anniversary time here. And I really want them to knock it out of the park because they need to, or, it's going to be tough.
I agree. But hopefully Tactics gives them a little bit of juice to kind of kickstart some momentum. I think out of anything they could have done, Tactics was the way to go to achieve that, to
Yeah,
bring back original fans that haven't been here in a while, and even more recent fans that have left. So yeah, props for that. But that's all we
definitely.
got. Good luck pulling for those that are going to go for Crimson Wizard and or the Sadali unit this week. And that's it for now. Enjoy the night.